Hello. Hey, hey, hey. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Yeah. My name is John Legend, in case y'all didn't know. All right. I'm excited to be here. Are you excited? Good, good, good. I'm really happy that my friend Walter Isaacson, who's the head of the Aspen Institute, invited me to come and address you guys today. He told me about this challenge, and, I said, I want to be here. I want to get involved. This is such a great opportunity. I hope you realize what a privilege and an honor it is for all of you to be here. And I kind of wish I had something like this when I was in high school, too. You know? Now, most people know me as a musician, but the truth is I'm also a very proud nerd. You got to embrace your nerd, you know? Embrace it. I love to read. I love to learn. I love to figure out how to solve problems. I love to be engaged in the world and what's going on. That's one of the major reasons I think I've been successful to this point in life, because creativity, curiosity, and drive is such a powerful combination. They can lead you to success no matter what your passions are, no matter what career you choose. I grew up in a small town, not anything like Los Angeles. It's a small town called Springfield, Ohio. It's a lot colder. It's a lot more boring, a lot sleepier. But I had a great family and a great community. And when I was just 4 years old, I begged my parents to enroll me in piano lessons at our local music store. Now, I was so little at that time that my feet couldn't even reach the pedals on the piano. But we had a piano at my house, and I wanted to learn how to play. I was curious and asked my mother, please enroll me in lessons. Now, once I grew into it a little more, my grandmother, our church organist, started to show me how to play gospel music. Now, pretty soon I was playing and singing in the church choir, and at that time I didn't know I was going to do this for a living, but I certainly loved the feeling of being in front of people and performing. I loved being on stage. I loved being creative. I loved seeing people who appreciated my music. That feeling was such a rush for me. Music allowed me to grow into my own personality, allowed me to be creative. And it's an amazing feeling to write something new, perform it in front of people, and inspire them. It's such a beautiful feeling. But my experience with music wasn't purely about creativity and passion. Music, like anything else, requires an enormous amount of practice and discipline. You have to really know your craft. You have to really spend time to get better. There's an author named Malcolm Gladwell. He famously wrote in his book Outliers that to be a true virtuoso at anything, it takes about 10,000 hours of practice. 10,000. Whether you're a musician, whether you're Bill Gates and you're programming computers, whether you're Kobe Bryant and you're shooting free throws and three-point shots. If you want to be great at something, it may not be 10,000 hours you got to spend at it, but you got to spend a lot of time, and you got to be heading in that direction. That discipline, that hard work, that practice, that attention to detail, that's what's going to provide you the foundation for you to have a serious impact in the world. So I practiced a lot, and over time, I turned my passion into skill. At the same time, I took school very seriously, and I did pretty well. And while I had passion for learning, I also had to do the work to get a good education. I went to a big public high school in Springfield where a lot of kids slipped through the cracks. I still remember standing on stage at my graduation and realizing that the class looked a lot smaller than it had my freshman year. Somewhere between freshman orientation and graduation, many of my peers had found a reason to give up on school and drop out. Maybe they caved to peer pressure. Maybe they fell behind so much that they gave up. Maybe their parents didn't stress the value of education. Maybe they had too many adults in the school system who gave up on them and weren't able to engage them. Or maybe they felt like they needed a job to put food on the table. Whatever the cause, they took a path that would forever limit their life prospects. It's very hard to succeed in life when you drop out of high school. One of the reasons that I succeeded in taking a different path is that I was lucky enough to find a few really great teachers and mentors. I had a counselor named Mr. Dixon. I had an English teacher named Mrs. Bodie. She saw potential in me and pushed me to excel. I write songs for a living now, but at the time I didn't even believe that writing was one of my strengths until I spent a year in her class. She helped me unlock my creativity and gave me the courage to write with passion and clarity. I wouldn't be the person I am today without her, and without other teachers and counselors like her. Now, I'm guessing that a few of you have your own Mrs. Bodies with you today. It's inspiring to see dedicated teachers out there pushing you to aim high and challenge your minds. Maybe we can get a little applause for our teachers today. Yes, they deserve it. Now, what teachers like Mrs. Bodie on my side, what they did, they told me to aim high, and so I did. I took advanced classes, got good grades, applied to college, and I went to an Ivy League school called the University of Pennsylvania. Now in college, go Penn. In college, I was exposed to a whole new world of thinking. And in some ways, when you go to college, you start becoming conflicted because you learn things that kind of upset what you thought you knew when you were in high school. Now, I grew up in a religious family, and so much of my early education came from the Pentecostal church. And we attended that on a weekly basis, and as you might imagine, I heard a lot of sermons, a lot of long sermons. Some of them were rousing and inspiring. Some of them were the perfect cure for insomnia. And almost all of them were very, very long. Sometimes I just wanted them to wake me up when it was time for me to sing. But those sermons, they give you a sense of morality, a strong sense of morality, a belief that there was a right and there was a wrong. It gave me a sense that there were two sides to this journey we call life. Now, like many people, I found comfort in that kind of clarity. There's a certain confidence that comes with being sure about how the world works. It's all written in an infallible book, and there's nothing left to discuss. But when I stepped off the plane in Philadelphia to start my freshman year of college, things got a little more confusing. The lines became more blurry with each new person I met, each new class I took, each new concept I learned. That comforting dichotomy of right and wrong, of black and white, was replaced by what my professors would call inquiry, methodology, and praxis. Or in plain English, a never-ending series of questions, discussions, analyses, and options. There was James Joyce telling me a man's errors are his portals of discovery. Toni Morrison telling me that if you surrendered to the air, you could ride it. Or even my sociology professor telling me that correlation does not always equal causation. With each course I took, my mind was challenged to be more critical, more flexible, more fluid, more supple. With each new friend I made, I realized that the world was a lot bigger than Springfield, Ohio, and I still had a lot to learn. Now, these experiences helped me realize that the answers to many of the challenges that we face, they're not always black and white. The answers very often lie in the gray area. You have to think. You have to ask more questions. follow the truth where it leads you. Over the course of college, I became more and more comfortable exploring that gray area and taking a more creative and nuanced approach to problem solving. After graduation, I really wanted to go straight into the music business. I thought I could get a record deal right away. But I had student loans to pay off, so I ended up taking a detour into the corporate world. I took a job at Boston Consulting Group. It's a management consulting firm. Don't ask me what management consultants do. It's very hard to explain. But no, the reason why they hire kids fresh out of college, some of them don't even have business majors, but they want people that got good grades and went to a great school, but they also want people who are creative problem solvers, people who are great communicators, people who work well in groups. They are looking to hire people with the skills that you all are developing today as your teams work through all these complex challenges. That's pretty cool, right? All of you in this room are ahead of your peers in developing the skills that you need to succeed in life. Now, I spent 3 years at this consulting firm, and it was a powerful experience. It was essentially a crash course in the art of problem solving. Now, I ultimately moved on to focus on music full time. I was fortunate enough to get a record deal a few years later, but I never left the art of problem solving behind. Turns out that approaching problems creatively is useful no matter what you do in life, no matter where you go, no matter what career you choose. Now, I write and perform music for a living, but this is the music business, and you can't forget the business side of that phrase. As with any business, there are plenty of problems to be solved. Now, I'm sure all of you in this room have diverse interests and are passionate about making the world a better place. Maybe you're interested in solving poverty and thinking about how we improve the environment. Maybe you're thinking about just making sure we fight hunger in our communities. Whatever your passion, you're going to need to be an excellent problem solver to make progress. You got to embrace that gray area so that you come up with innovative solutions that others have yet to formulate. Outside of my music career, I founded a nonprofit called the Show Me Campaign, which works to break the cycle of poverty through education. Now, one of the programs we operate is a fellowship for college students pursuing internships focused on education or international development. Why? Because I know that your generation has a major role to play in making progress on these issues. I believe that you have the intelligence and the creativity to lead us forward. And that's why I want to invest in you. Yes, I know you aren't in college just yet, but you will be before you know it. You're already coming up with creative solutions. I can see the wheels spinning out there in the audience. I know you're going to do great things. I know there's so much more to come. And I'm honored that I got a chance to spend some time with you today. Now, my favorite part of these things is when I get to take questions from you guys. So I'm going to take a few questions. I know you got some challenges to take on today, but I'd love to take a few questions before you go into your next challenge.
I'm just going to help you point them.
Yeah. So I'll leave my friend here to assign who's going to ask the questions.
Yes.
So he'll play bad cop.
Who's feeling like they want to go
We got
first?
a mic out here in the audience,
Yes,
too.
we
got
back.
2 mics. Why don't you, if you have a question, just line up to the mic. How about that? So everybody with a question, meet this young lady or that young lady in the audience and line up. Okay? And we'll get to as many as you can. First come, first serve. We'll start with this young lady here. Make sure the mics are on.
Oh, okay. I have 2 questions. I want to know, like, what challenges, like, after you wanted to pursue music, like, when you were deciding that you were going to go into the music business, like, what you faced. And the second is, can I have a hug?
I could hug everybody in the room, so I'm not going to, try to hug everybody individually right now. But I'll answer the first question. The first question is a good question because, when you see famous people on TV, you see Rihanna, you see Lady Gaga, you see Kanye, you see all these great artists, And sometimes people imagine that they were just so talented that it was so obvious that they would get a record deal. They walked into the office of Clive Davis or somebody in the music business, and Clive Davis was just bowled over by their talent, and they got a record deal that day. It almost never happens like that. It usually takes a lot longer. It usually is quite a process. And like anything in life that you succeed at, you actually have to fail a few times, maybe many times, before you succeed. And so, for me, the first record I played on that was, internationally distributed was a big record called The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Came out in 1998. You guys know that record? I thought y'all were too young. So that came out when I was still in college back in 1998. I had a friend who was friends with Lauryn Hill and invited me to go to the studio and meet Lauryn. And I just sat in the room, and there was a bunch of people there, and I sat in the room and just observed what was going on. I didn't want to get in the way. I didn't want to wear out my welcome too quickly. So I just sat there and just tried to soak it all in. But my friend, Tara, she said, Lauryn, you got to hear John sing. He can really sing and play. You got to hear him. So I sat on the piano and played a couple songs for her. And Lauryn said, John, you sound great. Why don't you play on this song we're working on right now? It's a song called Everything is Everything. I played piano on that song. So my first big credit on a record, I was still in college at UPenn, and I played on that album. And when I went back to school for my senior year, I didn't let anybody forget that I was on Lauryn Hill's album. And that was a big thing for me. And it was my first taste of the big-time music business. I've been performing and practicing my whole life and singing in talent shows and at church and at school and all kinds of places. But this is the first time I did something that big. And that was my first taste. And I was also in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia, during that time, the Roots were there. D'Angelo was working there with them. Common was working there. Music Soul Child, Bilal, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott. So this thing they used to call neo soul, which they don't call it that anymore, but neo soul during that time was a big thing. And almost all of the big neo soul records, if the artist didn't come from Philadelphia, they were at least going to Philadelphia to write and record a lot of these songs. And so I happened to be in the perfect place in the 90s to meet a lot of people in the music business because it was close to the style of music that I wanted to do. It was inspiring because I was seeing a lot of people that were around my age that were already succeeding, and I got to make a lot of connections. So in Philadelphia, I was making connections. I was meeting producers. I was working on my demo. I was writing songs. And I thought I would get a record deal maybe within a year after I graduated college. Then I thought I would get a record deal. Well, I didn't get it that year. I'll probably get it the next year. I didn't get it that year. I'll probably get it the next year. I was still working at BCG during the day, but I was playing at clubs at night. I was writing. I had met Kanye in 2001 when we had just moved to New York, and his cousin was my roommate. And so he's like, you got to meet my cousin Kanye. He's a pretty good young producer. He's working with Jay-Z and all this and that. And so we started working together. And all these things were happening. I felt like, oh, I'm so close. I got a manager, same guy who managed the Black Eyed Peas and the Fugees, this guy named David Sonnenberg. He decided to sign me as one of his clients because he believed in me. And I thought, we're super close. We're going to get a record deal soon. But I didn't get one until a few years later. I didn't get a record deal until May of 2004. And so I went from trying to get one in 98 when I first was thinking about it in college to getting one 6 years later. Now, in the scheme of things right now, that doesn't feel like a long time to me. But at the time, it felt like forever. And when you're getting rejected, when you go to a record label meeting and they say, yeah, it's pretty good, but I don't know. That happened to me multiple times over 6 years. And I had a lot of good feedback. I had a lot of encouragement. But ultimately, people were saying no to me for 6 years. Every record label, even the one that ended up signing me, said no first. And so what that tells you is that if you're going to do something big, if you're going to do something successful, often you're going to have to persevere through rejection, through failure. And a big key in life is that you are resilient, that you have perseverance, you have persistence. You also want to be great at what you do so that even when you hear no, you're like going back and saying, I'm going to get even better. So it's not enough to just have desire. You have to follow through and do the work and get better. But I'll tell you, I don't know any successful people that aren't resilient and aren't persistent and don't fight through no and get to yes. Don't fight through failure and get to success. Okay? So that's my advice to you.
Hello, my name is Paris Wintersmith. I attend Fairfax High School, and my question is, growing up, did you ever have any doubts that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, I didn't ever have doubts that I loved music and I wanted to perform, but part of me thought that it was kind of like a dream thing to do. And I was also a really good student, so I finished number 2 in my high school class, and I was in honor society and all these things. So I always had teachers that were encouraging me to do something that the smart kids are supposed to do, like do something professional, like be a doctor, or be an engineer, be a lawyer. And I loved math, I loved writing, I loved chemistry, I loved a lot of things in school. And so I always felt like if music didn't work out, I would have something to do. That's why I got my first job when I got out of school. I was like, I need a job, and I'm not making money from music, so let me do something that really is a challenge to me and pays me well and is a good job. And if music doesn't work out, then at least I'll know that I've started myself on a good path. And, I meet kids all the time, and inevitably, I was talking to a bunch of boys in Harlem at one of the schools I work with called Harlem Village Academies. And the principal asked me to kind of meet with the boys and inspire them. And I talked to them about what they wanted to do in life. And everybody told me they wanted to play basketball. It was like half the class. I'm like, all of y'all are not going to play in the NBA. And chances are none of you are going to play in the NBA. There are 30 NBA teams, and they have like 12 to 14 players on them. So that's like under 300 NBA players in the league right now, out of the millions and millions and millions of boys that want to play basketball. And so that's not to say don't try, but it is to say have a backup plan. If only 300 adults who are at the very top of their profession are playing basketball, then there's a very good chance you won't be in the NBA. So read about other things, think about other things, and you don't have to be famous to be successful. You can be very successful in your community. You can make a lot of money without being famous. So don't look at the famous careers as the only careers you can do. Those engineers, those lawyers, those doctors, those politicians, whatever, there are all kinds of people in your community that are doing great things. And they don't have to be famous to live a great life and be successful. So I always encourage people, don't just think about the things you see on TV as the kind of careers you want to do. There's so many other things. Do your research, read more about everything. Okay. I give very long answers, so I don't get a lot of questions. We'll do 2 more, okay? 2 more questions. And everybody else, I'm sorry, I can't get to your question. So the next 2. I apologize.
Hi, I'm Ariam, and I'm from Dorsey High School.
Uh-huh.
And my question to you is, what inspired you to write music? Would you say that
I got a question. How are the Dorsey kids the only ones with the green shirts? Yeah, everybody else is in black. No, go ahead. What was the question?
Oh, my question was that what inspired you to write your music? Would you say that inspiration comes anywhere?
Yeah, for me, part of my inspiration is listening to other great music. So I say to anybody who wants to do anything creative, you don't have to just come up with it off the top of your head. If you want to be a great writer, read other great writers. if you want to be a musician, listen to the great musicians that inspire you and that you love and learn from them. Copy them first before you create your own thing. Quincy Jones said, start by copying the people you love, and then eventually you'll develop your own style. And that's what happens. If you listen to enough music, part of your inspiration to create simply comes from listening to other creative people and what they've done. And so for me, part of my inspiration was just listening to people like Nina Simone and Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder and Lauryn Hill. And, you know, over the years, all the artists that have inspired me, they help me create. But then also I tell stories in my songs. Some of them are very true to life, things that I'm going through. Some of them are things that I've talked about with my friends. Some of them are just things I've read about or seen in a movie. But whatever it is, I want to tell a story that people can relate to, that people can feel, and I want to do it in a way that musically feels great and touches people. So, you know, that's the way I approach music, and all those influences inspire me, including other great musicians and just the things I live. And one more question.
Sorry, my heart is beating so fast right now. My name's Janelle Mendoza from downtown Magnets High School, and okay. My question is, contrasting from all of the famous people in entertainment, and how do you stand out from the others to make an impact on how you are right now, like reaching out to people?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I've had a unique background in life. You know, there's not a lot of musicians that went to an Ivy League school, that worked in a management consulting firm. All the things that I talked about that I've done in life, they've given me a unique perspective. And, you know, I started with the desire to make an impact in the world. So even when I was in high school, I actually wrote an essay for an essay competition called the Black History Makers of Tomorrow that McDonald's sponsored. I don't know if they still do it, but they sponsored this competition called the Black History Makers of Tomorrow, and I won the local essay competition. And what I said in my essay was that I wanted to be a great musician, and I wanted to use my position as a musician to inspire people, to help my community, and to make the world a better place. And I was 14 years old when I wrote this. And so I believed when I was 14 that I had a chance to do something like what I'm doing now, and I wanted to do it. And so I've always had that desire. I think my parents put it in me. I think growing up reading about great leaders put it in me. All of those things gave me the inspiration to be a leader and to be someone who tried to make change in my community. And then I was fortunate enough to get the kind of education that would prepare me to do that. And so I'm in a unique place in life where I've been very successful as an artist and as an entertainer, but also I have the knowledge and the background to extend the success that I've had in the entertainment world into other areas. And so I'm very happy to do it, very happy to be with you all today, and I thank you for having me. Thank you.
Spectacular.
Thank you.
Thank you very,
Thank you very
very
much.
much. Thank you very much. John Legend.
Thank you.